All right, market heroes, we're back. Now talking about straddle stop losses. Now, we don't typically like to ever use stop losses. And one of the reasons for that is because you get stopped out at pretty much a max loss. And that's no good. However, straddle specifically are strategy where losses are pretty much greater in this strategy than all other strategies that we will be showing you in this course. However, at the same time, they're the most profitable in terms of pure P&L, right? But a lot of people are very risk averse, so we want to go ahead and see if stop losses work for straddles, how much P&L we're going to have to sacrifice if we want to actually utilize stop losses with strangles. Now, we haven't showed you exactly how bad losses can get with straddles. We've just shown you what their overall P&L looks like. The truth is, I don't care personally about how bad losses get. I just care about the overall P&L. But a lot of people here in this course and a lot of my market heroes and clients are a little bit risk averse with straddle, so it's important to kind of talk about it again. What is a straddle? Selling an at the money put and call, right? So let's do this here. Selling an at the money put and call. Right now in SPY, 246.5, right? So the 247 put and call. So we're collecting $6.18 for doing this, right? So we'll make money a few ways at expiration. First of all, if volatility decreases over the period of this trade, we will make money. We will make more money than if we had sold options at other prices because the options that are closest to the money have the highest level of theta, right? So theta or premium or the value of these options are removed at the highest rate, the closest they are to the money, right? At the same time, if volatility decreases, we're selling something, and if volatility, we're selling these options, and if volatility decreases, the value of these options will also decrease because options are priced off of volatility or the expected move. And if the expected move is decreased, the price of those options will also be decreased. So that's how we make money with straddles. And again, we're collecting a lot of premium and looking to manage them quickly because we are so close to the money and theta is so high when you're closest to the money, right? So that's how we make money with straddles, right? And again, it's like a little bit different, right? A straddle is selling at the money, right? So our probabilities aren't as high. Our probabilities on strangles are supposed to be about 40% profitability, right? And it's supposed to come out in the wash. All right, so what we did here is we did a big study, and again, it's over 25,000 occurrences in 14 and a half plus years, depending on when you're watching this lesson. It's big sample size. And again, what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to see if it's more profitable for us to manage our winners and let our losers run, or manage our losers and let our winners run. Again, that's a little bit difficult in selling options because the credit we receive can never be greater than what we actually receive, right? So our profitability is maxed out and defined from the first time we're executing the strategy, right? So it makes it a little bit different. It makes you a little bit more regimented and a little bit more disciplined where you're not looking for home runs, right? So what we did was we sold the at the money straddle, right? Again, the at the money straddle is selling the at the money call and put at the same time. So we did a few things. The first thing we did was we bought it back for 25%, excuse me. So 25% of the credit we received, right? So we bought it back at 25% of the credit we received. That's what we did in the last study, and we saw how much more profitable that was until holding it to expiration, right? So that would be managing our winners. At the same time, we set up a stop loss for 100% of the credit we received, 125%, 150, and 200% of the credit received. Now, in all those cases, we also bought back the straddle if it reached 25% of max profitability, right? So this is managing our winners or managing our winners with managing our losers at the exact same time, right? So this is what all of our students were asking for, so this is what you're going to get, right? So we're just going to see if this actually works. So again, we're testing managing our winners, which is just managing at 25%, as well as managing our losers, which is setting a stop loss at 100%, 125, 150, and 200% of the credit we received. And if those ever reached those stop losses, we would buy it back, or if it reached 25% of the credit we received, we would buy it back too, right? So let's see what this looks like, right? So in our first column, we see that, again, guys, remember, this strategy is supposed to be right about 40% of the time, right? So if we do it every single day for over 14 and a half years, and we don't do anything with our losers, we just end up buying it back for 25% of the max profit, right? right? 81% of the time, we make about $7.89 per day. However, because this is an undefined risk strategy at this point, we lose our biggest loss is about $30,000, right? Let me put that in, $3,000. Let me put that into context for everyone real quick. This strategy, the 247 call and put, has a $6.18 credit. If we're going to lose $3,000 on this strategy, that would mean a few things. And just bear with me on this, guys. If we sold the 247 put and call and we want to, excuse me, guys. And if we sold the 247 put and call and our credit is $6.18, our break even is 241. In order to lose $3,000 in SPY, that's a $30 loss. That would mean we would have to incur a strategy that went down from 247 all the way to 211, right? So that's well over a 10% move in a 50-day period, right? So that's pretty big, right? That's pretty big. So I just want to put that into context. Yes, straddles are the most profitable. However, they also incur the largest losses. Right, so here we are. Let's see what happens if we buy it back for 25% or 100% of the credit we received, right? So in our second case, if it's 618, we're going to either buy it if it hits 263 or if the value is $12.36, right? So that would be the second strategy there, right? And again, we make about $7.14 per day, not terrible, and our largest loss gets cut in about a third, right? It's only about $1,000. It is not as profitable. I personally look at P&L per day as my only indicator. It's currently a little bit more profitable, right? Buying back for 125% would be, let's look at that. That would be either buying it back for 25% of max profit. So that would be either buying it back for 464, or it would be buying it for, if it ever got to $13.90, right? So how does that work? Let's see. How does that work? It makes about 1 penny more on average per day as buying it back for 100%. The reason probably for that is because the stop loss is larger, thus it gives the trade a little bit more time to become profitable, and the largest drawdown was about the same. However, once we get into the 150% stop loss and the 200% stop loss, we get very close in terms of profitability with also reduction of largest drawdown for this strategy. So it looks like when we do it and we don't have a stop loss and we just manage our winners, we make about $7.89 per day on average. However, if we buy back for 25% of max profit, or if it hits 150% loss of the credit we received, right, we would make about $7.56 a day, and we'd only lose about $1,200 as our biggest loss. That's pretty good. And at the same time, 200% stop loss is not the same. So what this really comes down to is the following. Doing this strategy and buying it back for 25% of max profit and doing nothing else is the most profitable. For sure. Is the most profitable. However, if you can't stomach a $3,000 loss on one contract, totally understand. I would recommend putting a stop loss at 150% of the credit you received or buying it back. Now, what would that look like? So we're collecting $6.18 here, and the stop loss is going to be at what? 150%, right? So the stop loss is going to be at times 2.5. So the way this strategy would work is you would place an order to buy it back at 463 or 1545, right? You would put those in and you would let it hang, right? And the outcome of that is going to be you make about $7.50 per day and your worst loss is only about $1,200, right? So I personally will never use a stop loss on anything, including straddles, and I do straddles all the time, and I will average out to about $8 a day. However, for those that are a little bit averse and aren't interested in a $3,000 loss, which again, a $3,000 loss happened in the financial crisis. Like it did happen in 2008. I remember doing this study myself. It did happen in the financial crisis, and it happened in that week where the market went down 20% in 1 week, which is, That could happen again, no question, but it's only happened once in the last couple decades. But if you are a little bit risk averse and you don't want to incur losses like $3,000 per day or more, I suggest putting this stop loss in at 150% of the credit received. I'll see you on the next video.